Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GABNET, the Great American Broadcast Network. There are many types of connections.
One ringy-dingy. Two ringy-dingy. Oh, a gracious good afternoon.
No, not that type. I mean personal connections. Very personal connections. You know, sexy connections. Connections between two consenting adults. Well, that's what GABNET has in store for your weeknights. You're saying, wait, we already have a sexy show on GABNET, don't we? Well, you're correct. However, that sexy show has a brand new name. Living Sexy is now called Connections.
This is Ernestine Tomlin from Telephone Repair Service, or as we say in the trade, My Bell's Fix-It Shop.
No, wrong number, Ernestine. I'm talking about Sexy Connections. Join hosts Blackjack, Electric, and Chastity, Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern and Tuesday through Friday at 1 a.m. only on GABNET.
One ringy-dingy. Is this Mr. Hoover? Mr. Jedgar Hoover? Good. Then I have reached the party to whom I am speaking.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the GABNET Tour Bus. Today our tour will take us up and around the newly designed GABNET.net webpage. For your safety, please stay seated while the bus is in motion and enjoy your trip. Also, remember that tipping your tour guide is greatly appreciated. Okay, we're off. The first place of interest that we're going to pass on the top left, you'll see a rotating billboard of all of the great GABNET programs. Legend has it that legendary broadcaster Alex Bennett created this billboard to attract early visitors to GABNET and to lure them into his site. To this day, it's one of the top attractions on our tour. Up next, look over at the top right and you'll see the most recent video of Alex Bennett's Ramble. And if you're lucky enough, we'll see Alex interacting with the citizen panel. Always a tour highlight. Did I mention that tipping your tour guide is greatly appreciated? As we approach the bottom of the Ramble video, we see quick links to all the ways that you can connect with GABNET programs. Facebook Live, YouTube, TuneIn, Livestream, Vimeo, and the GABNET Roku channel. They're all additional stops that you can make if you choose to step off the bus. But remember, please tip your tour guide if you do, and then you can hop on the next bus. Here's another highlight on our tour. On the left side, you'll see GABNET On Demand. You can quickly access any of the most recent programs there. Clearly, a value spot on our tour because downloads are at no extra cost. Please give your attention now to the right side. Look at the complete tutorial on how easy it is to become a citizen panelist. By the way, if you're a Luddite, there's a phone number that you can use to dial in. Okay, we're nearing the halfway point on our trip. I certainly hope that you're enjoying it. Oh look, there's the convenient call Skype button that you can click on, which will automatically connect you to the citizen panel. So now we're turning down the center of the page. I don't want you to miss any of these attractions, so please pay attention. Up first is a link to the 24/7 feed. Now these are going to come fast and furious, so pay attention. Next is a quick note on how you can hear GABNET on Amazon Echo. Next, quickly coming behind that, and this is always exciting, a screen that shows Alex Bennett's Ramble when it is live, with a countdown to the next show. It's always fun when we pass and the show is live. We're winding down our tour of GABNET.net, but before we reach our final stop, it's important to note that there is a place for you to contact them with your comments. Let them know how you like GABNET.net and the GABNET programming. And with that, we wrap up our tour. Remember, as you step off the bus, to please be careful. And also remember that GABNET is talk like you've never heard or seen it before. Did I mention, please tip your tour guide?
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GABNET, the Great American Broadcast Network.
everybody. Yes, it is the Ramble. Here we are, yet another wonderful evening of the Ramble. And we're here until midnight. And you don't see our image now because we're going to go to a pre-recorded interview. And since the person doesn't have Skype, you can't see him, but he's worth listening to. Okay? So let's get going. Okay, it's that time once again when we make a call out to the other coast of the United States and see what we get here. Let me see if it rings, because we always like the way our good friend Stephen Pearl answers the phone. Here we go. Come on.
Hey, everybody, this is LLICJ Cool J Jam talking, and I want to explain the difference between East Coast hip-hop and West Coast hip-hop. A lot of people don't know.
Okay.
Now, East Coast hip-hop goes, a wiggy, a wiggy, a wiggy, 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 and your West Coast hip-hop goes, a wah, a wah, a wah, a wah, wah. Now, sometimes we try to get a jam going with East Coast, West Coast hip-hoppers, and it goes, a wiggy, a wah, a wiggy, wiggy, wah, but they end up killing each other after about 30 seconds, so it's hard to get that. But if you can find a record that goes, a wiggy, a wah, a wiggy, wiggy, wah, it goes more than 30 seconds, you got a real collector's item there. That's even rarer than the Woo 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 Live Crew album that pharmaceutical motherfucker got who's getting it up the ass right now. Hello, everybody. I just thought I'd start with a little lesson in music and a little cheerful thing there.
Yeah, you certainly have. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, the lovely and attractive Stephen Pearl is with us.
Thank you very much. I'm just getting my temples waxed, but it's good to be here with the common folk.
I have to apologize because last week we were supposed to do one of these calls, and
right.
in my dotage, I completely forgot about it. You know, I mean,
we were worried. We thought you got lost at the John's Bargain store there.
Well, it was close to that. I mean, I felt so bad about it because I usually don't make that mistake. I sent you a note the night before saying we were going to call you and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then comes like 3 o'clock and I look and there's a message from you and it says, "Where the fuck were you?"
We was worried. We were ready to call.
You figure eventually, at my age, I know what you're thinking. If you don't hear from me, I'm probably dead or in the hospital.
Yeah, that's all we thought. He probably keeled over, so we better find out if he's okay or not. So there you go.
No,
if you're young, we think you got stoned and fell asleep behind the wheel of the getaway car. When you're old, we figure something happened.
No, you forget calls. That's what happens when you do heroin. You know.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. That's as Bill Hicks said, heroin's harder to quit than cigarettes, so I'm 0 for 2 now. I rarely quote anyone else, but that was too good to let go.
He was very quotable. He was great.
Yes, he was.
Bill Hicks. Yes, most people in the end will never know who Bill Hicks is because he never reached his full popularity and notoriety.
Oh, no.
But among people...
he didn't...
Go ahead.
He didn't live to be a burnout, and he didn't live to be a burnout like Kennison. So he just was barely approaching his peak, and that was it. So very sad.
Yeah, he had such a future, and he was.
Oh yeah,
I think most people will say one of the greatest comics we've ever known. You know.
Oh, he was fantastic. He was fantastic. I was honored to be in the movie Comedy's Dirtiest Dozen with him. Copyright 1988. Now for sale at all Woolworths, Path Market, Genevieve stores for 50 cents.
Yeah, right. Exactly. He was terrific. He was just the best.
Yeah, he's a good man.
It's funny. A lot of people, all my life, people keep saying, "Oh, so-and-so, he's the next Lenny Bruce." And there's never been a next Lenny Bruce. But if anybody came close, it was Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
Because Bill Hicks had the rhythm that, because Lenny Bruce was almost a jazz artist.
Sure.
His meter, his timing, and so on was very jazz. And the same was true with Bill. When I first saw Bill, I went, well, if anybody, you could say about anybody that he's the closest thing to Lenny Bruce, I definitely felt he was,
Yeah. I was watching some Jackie Vernon clips the other day, and his delivery, it reminded me like Robert Schimmel had a very similar delivery. He wasn't copying him at all or anything. He's totally original, but just listen to the way Jackie Vernon's delivered stuff and listen to the way Schimmel did. It was kind of, just very dry and really funny, and it builds up to something, and you crack up when he's done.
Yeah, people
But,
don't.
they kind of had a very similar delivery.
I don't know if people know what we're talking about when we talk about rhythm.
No,
in
they
comedy.
never know what I'm talking about. My references are from like the days of Remco toys.
No, but when we talk about rhythm in comedy, that comedians establish their own rhythm, and
Sure.
sometimes it gets stolen. You know who stole? Who? If you watch him, and most people don't see this, but I do. If you watch him, somebody who's completely stolen from Richard Pryor. His rhythm, everything. Okay, Steve Harvey.
I haven't watched him really. He has too many teeth. It just glares off my eye. It just blinds me.
But Steve Harvey, Steve Harvey, I would say, stole Richard Pryor's timing and style. You know, but most people don't notice it because he doesn't look like Pryor. You know.
No, he's the corporate Pryor, the clean Pryor.
He's the corporate Pryor.
The corporate Pryor, Dow Chemical Pryor.
They always used to have a joke. I think it was. I think it was on that black comedy show. What was in Living Color? Always making jokes about Jamaicans and how they'll work 10 jobs or something. You know, like, and on my 5th job every day, I'd blah blah blah. You know, that's Steve Harvey. He's the Jamaican of comedy. I don't know how many shows he has now. You know.
Yep.
He has more shows on. He has more shows on television, I think, than DC does. Because the other day I was counting the DC shows, and I came up with 9 shows on television right now that are based on DC products.
Jeez! Oh my God!
9.
They're taking over.
And only 5 of them are on the CW. You know. But you don't know. You're not a big comic book fan, so you don't know what I'm talking about. Neither am I. But but I know these things. You know.
Yeah.
Like I was never. When I was a kid, I just never. All the people I respect. Okay, my best friend Shecky, not Rob Schneider, Michael Snyder, a lot of people into comics. Into comic books, grew up with comic books. Me, the only comic book that I really ever read was when I was a little kid. I read like Donald Duck, you know, and things like that.
The little kiddie comics.
And,
I loved I had DC comics. I loved the Supermans and everything. And then all my friends would say, "Hey, you got to read Marvel comics. DC isn't hip anymore." So I switched to Marvel, but I secretly read both. I was like bi-comical. And when I like the underground stuff, like Freak Brothers and Art Crumb and all that. And then I just lost interest.
No, but
I used to draw comics myself, in fact.
Yeah, I let's see here. Then I remember the Sunday comics I was always into, like Flash Gordon, Dick Tracy, to a lesser extent, Little Abner. You know,
written by that right-wing cunt Al Cap, that son of a bitch.
yeah, right. But it was still good stuff, you know.
Oh, it's great stuff. He's a genius.
But he was a great American satirist, if you think about it.
Sure. Oh, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. Just hated those hippies, you vermin.
He just hated the world.
Yeah, he was an angry guy.
But people don't even know when we say Al Cap, nobody knows who we're talking about. You know, we're talking about the guy who created Little Abner. When we say Little Abner, they say, "What's Little Abner?"
Who the fuck is Little Abner? Yeah. So
and then when I grew out of that, what I grew into was Mad Magazine, not the comic, first the comic book, Mad Comics.
Yeah.
And then the Mad Magazine, where it really was a magazine. I mean, it was well put together. Harvey Kurtzman was the head of it, and they had some great cartoonists and so on. Oh. And in fact, I have some books in the other room of those original issues of Mad Comics and Mad Magazine.
Mad was amazing.
Yeah.
I had a letter published in Mad Magazine, in fact.
Did you
January 71.
Did you really? What was the letter about?
Yep. I wrote them a letter. They had a little article. I wrote it in the August of 70, and it was so good I knew it would be published. And it was. And I was the star of my neighborhood for a month. I was. They had a little thing called the Mad Love Book. Don't you love finding chains in the jacket pot? Don't you love this? Don't you love that? And in the little beginning of the thing, in the little letters that Mad is published every month except February, May, August, and November of the year. So I wrote, don't you just love February, May, August, and November? Because those are the months Mad isn't published. Bam! It comes out a few months later. Oh, boy. So
wow,
that was one of my two. And another time, in 1970, I went on a youth hospital trip, and I missed an issue of Mad magazine, which put me in a nervous breakdown. And it was the one with Easy Rider on the cover, and I loved that movie so much. So what I did when I got back from the youth hospital trip, I figured since I lived in Nassau County, my brilliant 14-year-old brain figured since I lived there, everyone else must live in Nassau County. Yeah. So I looked up in the Nassau County phone book under Mort Drucker, and there it was, Syosset, because I knew he drew a lot of the satire. So I called him up, and it was him, and I spoke with him for like 20 minutes. He was really nice, and he sent me the issue 3 days later.
Here's the thing, that I really always loved Mad Magazine and Mad Comics. Now, when I talk about this, if people are going, you like Mad? It's kind of a stupid magazine. Well, it got stupid. It just got...
Yeah, it got stupid back then. It was great. Cutting edge.
Once the guy Gaines, who ran the company, took it over and got rid of all the old people like Harvey Kurtzman. Harvey Kurtzman went over to Playboy and started, what was it, two copies of the magazine. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was now.
He did Little Annie Fanny for Playboy.
Yeah, but it was Little Annie Fanny was in this. It was actually two issues. They only did 2 issues. Trump, I think it was called. Trump, believe it or not. Trump.
Trump magazine.
Yeah.
You have to climb a wall to get it.
Yeah. And then he left that and went and started something called Humbug. And these were all the real satirists. So I followed them, and I said to hell with Mad comic books. That was ridiculous. Yeah. But the original Mad comic books, when it was actually a comic book and was illustrated, it was just, some of it was so fucking brilliant. You know?
Oh, sure. It was like the first underground comic.
It basically, yeah. And it just it became quite a sensation, you know. But so that was my whole world of comics. But my world of comics really wasn't. I read DC. I liked Batman. I think was my favorite. Superman. I don't know. Guys with blue hair just never appealed to me. You know. But Batman I liked. There was something about Batman that was interesting. You know. Even though
I like the Marvel comics because, like in the DC comics, took place in imaginary places like Metropolis or Gotham City. Marvel comics took place in New York, and you see like Spider-Man swinging through Far Rockaway, and so, hey, that's where my grandmother lives. It's pretty cool. So, you know, it's real places.
I think if I had my druthers, I would probably choose a lot of the Marvel comics over the DC. You know, they were a little slick and so on. There seemed to be kind of an edgy quality to Marvel, but I never got into Marvel either. You know, and where they're finding
Beatles
some of these,
Stones. I like them both.
and where when I talk to somebody about, well, where the hell did the Black Panther come from? Oh, he was a big comic way back when, blah 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 blah. And then he gave way to so and so. My friend Shecky will tell me the whole complete DC universe. I mean, when somebody appears in one of these DC shows, says, "Oh yeah, well that was back in 1960 when that character first appeared in DC comics."
He knows all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, he loves DC. He knows the people at DC. He's been a big DC fan for forever. So but I for some reason, I just never got into comic. I mean, I probably was more into comic books than I'd like to think I was, but not as much as a lot of other people were. You know. Yeah. And
I used to love them, but then one day I just no more comics.
And you know, if you collected those goddamn things, they're worth a fortune today.
Well, I collected them, but my mother threw them out. Thanks, Mom. There goes the condo.
Well, at one point, you know what? I have every issue of the early. It's in storage. Every National Lampoon. National Lampoon. I have all first 20 issues of the National Lampoon, including one issue that basically is very rare because it never got out because the warehouse burned down before they could distribute most of them, and that was the cover with Abby Hoffman on it.
I used to have that. He had the puppets on the cover.
That's right. Well, that was very rare.
1970. Oh, God, I wish I still had that.
You know, I always used to go to the newsstand on the day that I knew the National Lampoon was coming out. And they were friends of mine, too. But the day it was coming out, so I could pick up a copy, and I picked up that one. But then there were no more after about 2 or 3 days because the plant burned down and that entire issue burned. I've got the 3D.
I had one. It had Abby on the cover. We were in the flag shirt with a Nixon and an Agnew puppet.
Yeah.
And there was a little article in the beginning how the government was going to put on a Woodstock for the young people featuring Hendrix and this artist and that artist.
Yeah.
With planes will make a big peace sign, and the fourth plane will drop the bomb.
Right. And I've got even the very first issue of the National Lampoon. You know, I mean, and they're all in fairly good shape, and I've never done anything about them. You know, I should try and sell them. They're probably worth something, you know. And
if you want the money, see. If you don't need the money, keep them and read them again.
Well, I just became close friends with most of the people there. You know, Doug Kenny and Michael O'Donoghue was like my best friend.
Oh, you knew Doug Kenny, poor guy.
Yeah, and Michael O'Donoghue was like my best friend, and even before the National Lampoon, when he had done a. Michael, in case people don't know who Michael O'Donoghue is, he on Saturday Night Live was called Mr. Mike, and he was really a strange little man. I liked him a lot, though. I liked him a lot.
Very dark, very dark.
And he did a thing called for Grove Press called The Adventures of Phoebe Zeitgeist. And get the plot of Phoebe Zeitgeist. In the first episode of Phoebe Zeitgeist, it's a comic strip, she gets killed. And the rest of the whole thing about Phoebe Zeitgeist is where her body is being dragged around. In other words, she's the central character in a comic book, but she's dead. Not zombie, nothing like that. Dead. By the last page of this book, there are like plants growing out of her. You know, she's like,
oh my God. That's my kind of.
And I read this when I was in Chicago, and the first thing I did when I got to New York, and they gave me on WMCA a Saturday night talk show, is they said, "Well, you got to have guests. Who do you want?" And I said, "I want a guy by the name of Paul Krasner, who ran The Realist." And I said, there's a guy here in town. This was before the National Lampoon came out, named Michael O'Donoghue. So they found him, and Michael came on, and we became good friends. But I found him even before he went to the National Lampoon. And then when he went to the National Lampoon, he brought all these other goons with him, you know, over to my show. And the best thing that we ever did, and it's been lost to the ages. I don't have a copy of it, and I wish I did because it's a classic. It was one of our Saturday night shows, and they said, let's do a parody. I said, okay, what? And Doug Kenny came in, and he played an inmate of this particular facility. And Michael O'Donoghue played the doctor who ran the place. And then, I don't know, there were some other people there, like Tony Hendra and a couple other people. Christopher Surf was there. And they were all playing these various roles. And here was the premise. We were talking about concentration camps in America, camps where they rehabilitate kids who are on drugs or do bad things to make them socially acceptable human beings. But what you do is these were literally concentration camps in America. But the way you do a parody and the way we did it was you don't go on and do a discussion. Is it right to have these concentration camps? Because then you kind of make people go, oh, this has got to be a put on because there aren't concentration camps in America. So you have to start one step further than that. And the whole show, the premise of it was not whether they existed or not, or whether they should exist or not, but whether they were being run correctly.
Oh, my God.
So starting from that point, are they being run correctly? We had people calling the show, turning their brothers in. You know, really, I'm not kidding you. Literally. And other people going, this is the most outlandish thing I've ever heard of. Of course they're not being run properly. They're using electric the shock to get these people. And it was brilliant. It was
Titicut Follies, my God.
And Doug Kenny played this lobotomized inmate of this outfit. I want to thank Dr. So-and-so for helping me get back to very lobotomized. And then Michael O'Donoghue playing this very strict kind of, we are trying to help these young children. And it was brilliant. It was just brilliant. And I do not have a copy of it. So if there's anybody listening to me, because I know, I find things show up on YouTube. They show up various places because some of these kids who liked my show recorded every episode. They had little tape recorders.
The show I did with you and Robin and Jeremy was from '82. Was on YouTube. It just appeared out of nowhere.
But that's because I have it. That's because I put it on.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, I found an interview I did with all the Grateful Dead was it on YouTube? God, I can't remember whether it was YouTube or where it came from, but I now have it. And it's the one in which they all started smoking pot in the studio. And and I once asked my the lawyers at WMCA, what if somebody starts smoking pot in the studio? They said, it's not your job to tell them to stop doing it. It's just your job not to do it yourself. Okay.
There you go.
Then we're on good legal grounds. You know, the police want to arrest anybody, they arrest the people who lit the joints. So I had 6 of the 7 Grateful Dead, and they were all on these tables because I was in Barry Gray's studio, and each guest had their own little table with a microphone on it. And I said, and they started pulling out a joint, each one of them a joint, and started smoking. Well, by the end of the hour, I was so loaded, it was ridiculous. I didn't have to smoke it. I was getting the contact high of contact highs.
Sure.
Yes, folks, I got a contact high from the Grateful Dead. Kiss my fucking ass, okay?
Yeah, you don't like it. You don't like it. Tough shit.
I was literally almost hitting the floor. Almost hitting the floor.
Oh, sure.
You know, but I knew all those guys at the National Lampoon, and I had every issue that came out for at least the first 20, and I have them bound in binders.
Wow.
I should go back and get those and see if anybody wants to buy them. I think they're probably quite saleable.
Take them to Eli's pawn shop. I'll give you $5 for all of them.
Because you know what,
Eli.
You know, I found out you collected stuff when you were a kid, didn't you?
Sure, I collected lots of stuff. Yeah. My mom would either break it or throw it out.
Really? And so you have none of it?
Yeah.
You have none of it?
None, very, very, very little. Very little.
Yeah, my parents.
I had monster models. I had Matchbox toys. I had comic books. I had records. Gone.
But you see, here's my problem. Here's what you do. Kids, if you're listening to me, listen to your Uncle Alex. If you like something, buy 2 of them. Okay?
Very smart.
And then put 1 away. I guarantee you, given 20, 30 years, I know that's a long way away for most of you, it's going to be worth a fortune.
You'll be glad you did.
You'll be like that. You'll be like that kid who bought 2 copies of Detective Comics #1, you know?
Very smart. Very smart.
Yeah. Which, how much is that worth now? It's worth $1 million or something. I don't know.
Oh, sure. You find like Action Comics #1. Ka-ching! Yeah. You can buy that island.
Well, you know, I have a postcard from John Lennon, and I once said to Shecky, "How much do you think this is worth?" He said, "Here's the answer to the question of how much is it worth. Whatever you can get for it."
There you go.
And when it comes to memorabilia, the worth of something you can't put a price on. You have to put it out there and see what people are willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
And
it might be worth a lot. It might not be worth that much because he signed millions of autographs. Who knows?
Well, this wasn't just an autograph. This was a note to me saying, geez, I hope I heard somebody hand me the phone and said I was on the Alex Bennett show last night. I hope I was good enough. I had enough shit last year. And and then he signed it John not John Lennon, but John Lenono or whatever. John Lennon, yeah. And where it said John Lennon at the top of the thing is the postcard. He put an O after the Lennon, so it was Lenono.
John Lenono, I get it.
And then wait a minute, and then he drew a picture of himself on it, little caricature of himself on it. So how much do you think that's worth?
That might be some, but the thing is, I'm not knowledgeable on autographs, but I do believe an autograph is worth something. It's worth more if it's just the signature and not made out to anyone in particular. I've heard that many times, but what do I know?
I had this estimated at one point at $25,000.
Whoa, that's not bad.
It's not bad at all. Hey, listen.
Not bad.
Wow,
new shoes with that.
We've already run out of time here.
Already? Oh, my God. That's right. With the commercials, we've done a half hour.
Yes. When I click stop here, I effectively kill you.
Yeah, just kill me. Do it. Kill me twice. What do I care?
And then you don't exist again until I play another interview with you.
There you go. Kill Tommy, kill Sally, kill me. Just fucking kill me.
But there will be another one in a couple of weeks because I think the world of you, Stephen Pearl.
Thank you, Alex. The feeling is mutual. So you call any time and we'll do this again and again and again till one of us keels over.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before. This is GABNET, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Oh, hello. Is it dark in here? Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Oh, man. I had this thing set earlier today for something we were doing here, and I didn't. Let me see here. Where do I forget how I do stuff. Hold on a second. I didn't want to do that. Okay, here we go. There. How do I get? Oh boy, I'm having a problem here. Hold on a second. All of a sudden, I don't remember how to do something. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I should remember how to do my turn on my the picture here, and I don't remember how to do it. Oh, I know what the problem is. Here we go. All right. It's getting to the point where things I do all the time, I can't figure out. Here we go. We simply go over here, and then we go exposure. Bing! There we go. Isn't that pretty? And then I got to turn this light on here. See, I was doing an interview earlier today, and one which you will hear in about a week, or hear several of them. Let me see. Let me go. Oh, look, that's too dark, right? But then if I go like that, it brings it up. There we go. Okay. Are we okay? Are we fine? Do we look good? Okay. I give up. You know, it's amazing when I can't figure out anymore how to do simple stuff I do all the time. So anyway, I just found it, and we're okay, and we're running smooth. All right? Okay. All right. Now let me open up the Skype lines. I think I still know how to do that. Man, I just can't believe it that I suddenly get mystified about why isn't something working, and I don't understand it and all of that, and you know, it's stupid. It's really stupid. It's because I'm just lately I've just been fog-headed. So here I was supposed to find the place where I get the picture going, and I couldn't find it because I wasn't bringing up the right thing. So, excuse me, folks. But anyway, I got the pictures, and now my picture looks good, and it's not dark. What I didn't think to do was, before I went on the air, I did an interview here today, which we're going to run. There are 2 half hours and 1 40-minute interview with my friend Jack Garfine, and it's all about his time in the concentration camps. And I've got to tell you, if you've never listened to any program that we do, when I play these, you should listen to it, because it is some of the most. It's literally, some of it is jaw-dropping. Okay, and I think that you will find it quite amazing. Yeah, I'm just talking about the interview I did today with Jack Garfine.
Yeah,
we did.
How many
We did
time?
2 30-minutes and a 40-minute.
Very nice.
And the last one, the first ones are him growing up, and then the Nazis coming to get him, and how they eluded the Nazis, and so on. And then the last one is Auschwitz and his liberation, and it is just, it is stunning stuff. It's people, we look back at the Holocaust, and I know about the Holocaust. I went and I saw Schindler's List. I think Jack kind of gave me the attitude that Schindler's List made it too happy. It had to have a happy ending, because it's Hollywood. He said there were no happy endings there. It was amazing. But the last the 40-minute one is just so compelling because that's when he gets off the cattle car at Auschwitz. And the whole trek and his whole beginning at the concentration camps that at the camps began. And it's just, I just sat here, it was breathtaking, the stuff he was talking about. And it was one of the most difficult interviews I've ever had to do. Because number one, I know the guy and I love him dearly. And at certain points in the interview, he broke down and started crying, and I wanted to intercept and stop him from, but there were things that were just so emotional to him. And after the interview was over with, he's been interviewed dozens of times about the concentration camps. There's a big Canadian broadcasting did a big documentary on him, and he said to me, "You got stuff out of me that I never got. I never told anybody." So there's some pretty spectacular stuff.
Are you going to do another one as he came direct?
Well, the second part of his life is just as interesting as the first part of his life, but for an entirely different reason. He became a theater director with the Actors Studio, and then became a Broadway director out of that, and then directed a couple of movies, and was in fact the kind of mentor to people like James Dean, and he was a mentor to Marilyn Monroe. And
was that the second half hour, or you haven't done?
No, we haven't done that yet. He'll have to come back for that. I felt that, at his age, I don't know, that tomorrow I won't suddenly say, hey, I don't, he isn't around anymore and I can't do the second half. Which half do I want to do first? Yeah. And I figured the concentration camps were very important. The other stuff is more about, I married Carol Baker, and it wasn't a great marriage, and, and it's good stuff. I mean, it's really good stuff because he's got stories to tell about James Dean and about Marilyn, who he was very close to, that are just stunning in and of themselves. That's why this guy has lived such a rich life. Marjorie said to me, well, how long are you going to take with it? I said, my life was nothing compared to Jack Garfine's, and it took me 34 hours. So if I were to do, if Jack were younger and could take the strain of it all, I would do it in minute detail and do it as an audio biography. Yeah. This is kind of a mini audio biography that we're doing here. So I'm hoping that I get him back in a couple of weeks when he's feeling better. He's not been feeling well lately. And that we can then finish it by doing the big glitzy Hollywood stuff. But it isn't all glitz there either. I mean, he had big problems with Columbia Pictures, who he did his films for, and but he he was with, who was he with? I think he was with Marilyn when they found out that James Dean had died. And they had just seen James Dean the day before. He was going to say, I'm going up north with the car, And
what was his take on the James Dean death? Was it a suicide?
Oh, no, it wasn't a suicide. It was an accident. That was just plain accident. He liked to drive fast, Yeah,
that was a rear engine.
That's how the story has to tell. They were in a screening room. They might have even been watching the rushes of Giant and when they got the news.
Wow.
And I think Marilyn was there and a couple other people. And they, but you know, that's for another time. These first three, which I don't know whether to play them off once a week or play them off 3 days in a row. I haven't decided yet, you know. But I decided not to do a whole 2 hours with him or an hour and 40 minutes with him without stopping, because number one, he needed to stop. He needed between the second and the third part that we did, he needed to go out to the living room and sit down and relax, because he got so emotionally drained from telling the first two that he wanted to prepare himself to do the rest of it. And the rest of it in some ways wasn't as arduous to him as the first parts, because it's memories of his parents and grew up in the Carpathian Mountains, you know, and people are going to find it amazing, just an amazing interview. Yeah.
Yeah, the interview that I have a recording of a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
He was very, you know, matter of fact. You know, it's you know, these things were happening around me, and I was a child and really didn't understand what was going on, and he just kind of got swooped up.
Yeah. Well, he was at the time that he went to the camps 13.
Yeah. Same with my friend's dad.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was old enough to know what was going on. You know,
yeah.
There were some things he didn't know that were going on. He didn't understand the way his mother was handled. Well, you'll hear it all. It's the most fascinating account I've heard of that period of time, because what I tried to do is get him to immerse you in what it was like to suddenly have the Jewish laws come into being, you know, and them rounding up people and putting them in cattle cars and sending them places. And
can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Did you ask him what his feelings were on guns, for instance?
No,
and
no.
the Jews?
No. It wasn't that kind of discussion. It wasn't that kind of discussion, and it would have been, I think, inappropriate, to tell you the truth, because to the discussion, it would have thrown the whole interview off and gone into some kind of political tangent.
Yeah. I wasn't even thinking of it as a political thing.
If you think they didn't have guns, they had guns. You know? Yeah. Families had guns. What?
The Nazis disarmed the Jews. They burned their books.
Well, I mean, you know, you had to be there. You know, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
And
that's why I was curious.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people have always said, well, the Jews couldn't arm themselves and they took their guns away, and they just went willingly rather than putting up a fight.
Yeah.
And that's revisionist history 70 years later. I just wonder, you know, whether that's something that he was old enough to fathom.
That isn't the, you know, I'm sure if they wanted to fight it, they could have fought it. But a lot of them didn't know till they got to Auschwitz that they were going to a concentration camp. They were being told they were going to a labor camp.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Let's see here. This is Donald Green. Hello, Donald. How are you? Douglas. Excuse me, Douglas Green. Hi, Doug.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. I can see your picture. I can't see. I see a photograph. I don't see your picture. So turn on your camera. Turn on your camera, and then we'll see you. Douglas has called us before, right?
No, it's the first time.
Oh, this is your first time. Okay.
It is, yeah.
You see where you got a little? Explain it to him. You got a little button there with a picture on it. It might be X'd out.
Oh, down at the bottom, Douglas, you hover over it, you'll see like 4 icons. One of them will be a camera icon. If you click on that, your camera may start.
There we go. See? Boy, are you good. So this is your first time, Douglas.
It is, yeah.
You see, I'm getting so old I don't remember who calls me and who doesn't call me. Where are you calling from, Douglas?
30 miles outside of London.
Outside of London. Oh, good. We can put another pin on our map. You know.
How come you called tonight? And have you listened before?
Yes, I used to live in the Bay Area, and I've actually been over to see Alex live.
Yeah.
I remember seeing. I guess it was. I used to live on 3rd Street, and you were around the corner, broadcasting around the corner, I believe.
Oh, right. Which is now the. Let's see here. Well, no, that was when we had the newer studios, I believe. I think.
Yeah, it's kind of green-looking building. Modern-looking building.
Right. Well, thank you. Are you using that microphone to talk to us? Because it's too far. Move it closer to you.
Okay, yeah.
You know something? I think actually your camera mic is what's on, not that mic.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can kind of fix it. So
yeah, I'm going to tweak a few things here, I suppose.
Yeah.
Can you hear me there?
Yeah, we can't hear you off the mic yet, but...
okay. Well...
If you go into your Skype, where do you go here? Let me see. What are you using? Windows?
Yes.
Okay. If you go, see where it says Tools up above?
Is that a USB mic or is that a...
it is a USB, yeah.
Because if you go to options, if you can find your options, you go to audio settings, it just asks you what you want as your input.
Oh, I see.
And, can you find that under do you have options there? I don't know which one you're using. If you're using the old Skype or whether you're using the new Skype. If you're using the new Skype, I can't help you.
I think I'm using the old Skype.
Yeah. See up above, up along the top row. It says Skype, contacts, conversation, call, view, tools. Do you have that?
Okay.
A little lesson, folks, for all of you out there.
By the way, while he's doing that, Ray Renati wrote me and asked how I was doing and said that that to say hi to everybody.
Yeah, he's
working on his play.
Right. Well, it doesn't really matter, Douglas. If
okay.
If
I'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out when you get a chance. So you listen.
Actually, one thing, Douglas, just tap your microphone to see if that is actually the one that's working.
No, it's not working. I can tell you now that's not the one that's working.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, okay.
Anyway, Douglas, do you listen to the Ramble a lot, or?
Yeah, I've watched it quite a few times because I used to listen to Live 105.
Yeah.
In the Bay Area, you and Laurie and
right.
All that good stuff, and I've kind of watched your, I watched listen to you when you're on Sirius,
right,
for a bit, and so I kind of know, I've known what you've done for the last, till about, I guess, 2000, I suppose. And I think I started.
Well, no, Sirius was 2004 actually.
2004, yeah. But I'm familiar in the Bay Area from about 1999.
Yeah.
No, sorry, 1990 actually.
Right.
So I've kind of listened to you on the radio a lot, And,
well, how long have you been back in near London?
Actually, I live fairly near Farnham. Do you remember? That's a name you probably know, doesn't it? Farnham.
Yeah, I had a friend named Farnham once. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So I've been here now since 2010.
Ah,
so
what made you go back to England?
I've been away 27 odd years, so I just decided to come back, and it's a long time, but I've been back now 8 years now.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Long enough to get the accent.
I've always had the accent. It's like you've got a New York accent. You lived in California for many years.
Do you feel you're missing out on the fun here in the United States?
I do sometimes. Yeah, I try to follow things. I have a good. Maybe I can contribute a perspective from England. I often chuckle a lot of the lefty things that you think you are. You know,
yes.
If you came here, you'd see real lefties. You know.
Yeah, well, of course, of course. But do you say to yourself, "Boy, I'm glad I'm not back there with all that insanity that's going on"?
I suppose, you know, we've got some terrible insanity going on here at the moment. The Labour Party's been taken over by absolute communists, you know.
Absolute communists?
Yeah, definitely.
Are there still communists? I mean,
yeah, I think so. They call them now cultural Marxists, don't they?
Oh, do they really? See,
progressive liberals.
No, I always felt that communism was something that kind of became a has-been ideology, you know.
Yeah, well.
You know, even Putin hasn't reinstituted communism in China,
right.
in Russia, rather.
He's got kind of a...
I have a friend that just returned this week from Cuba, and she said that because of the socialistic government, that people don't want to work, and that if the government owns everything, so things are in disrepair because people live in buildings, and they say, well, why should I paint it? It belongs to the government. And
where'd you hear that from?
From a gal that just spent a week and a half in Havana.
Oh, and so she knows everything about what's going on with the mindset in Havana.
And this is a very liberal gal. You know, I mean, she's definitely thinks like you do, and
how is that exactly?
Sort of a communist progressive.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
But she just said that things were in real disrepair, and that nobody wanted to do anything. It was people were in survival mode, and they get taken care of by the government, and they're dependent now on it.
Yeah. Well, you've got to remember that when you mention Cuba, you're mentioning not a great communist country. Okay. I mean, to begin with, they've always had nothing but problems because we wouldn't do business with them, and so therefore we kept trying to starve them out. And
but
so
the rest of the world does business with them.
Well, not the same way. You know, I mean, we were very close, and we were putting embargoes on things, and if countries we were doing business with did business with them, we gave them hell. You know. Mm-hmm. They always thought that if we could freeze out Cuba, we could stop them. And the fact was, that wasn't going to stop Cuba. You know. But what do you think, Douglas? Looking now at what's happening here in the United States with our wonderful government that we've got here. And forgive me, Phil, for saying this, our wacko president.
Everybody's interpretation is different. I thought the last guy was a wacko.
Wait a minute, you thought Obama was crazy?
Yeah, the things that he would do, I thought were detrimental.
No, maybe you didn't. No, maybe you didn't like what he did. But wacko was not a term you would attribute to Barack Obama, a guy who.
I kind of think that some of the presidents before radio or television were probably pretty crazy too, because nobody really knew. They didn't communicate really writing, did they?
Nixon was batshit. He was talking to paintings at the end,
Well, he was under a lot of stress.
Huh?
He was under a lot of stress, and I believe that he really believed in America and wanted, that's why he stepped down.
Listen, this president is so bad, I wish we had Nixon back, okay? And you're hearing that from me, all right?
I would environmentalist.
Well, let me say this, Phil. And I know you're going to disagree with me on this. And by the way, is anybody else going to call this program, or do I? I do have somebody from London, so from Farnham, so I don't need you, okay? But if you'd like to call, do so, will you please? That Nixon, as a president, still had a respect for the office and wanted to maintain the dignity of that office. While I disagree with his politics, I disagreed with his politics when I was a kid, because my father had a first. I always thought until I was, I don't know, of a real decent age, I didn't know that Nixon's first name was Richard because my father always called him that asshole Nixon. So I thought that was his first name. So I never liked Nixon, and I never liked what he did and what it came to and so on and so forth. But compared to this guy, he did care about America. He did get us talking to the Chinese. You know, he did a lot of things. But he did maintain the respect of the presidency. You know, this guy doesn't. This guy it's a joke under him.
No, he's a disruptor. That's what his whole thing is. You know, last night you had said,
no, he's
really
not a disruptor. He's a dismantler.
Well, that's part of it. You know, you had said, oh, well, really what I want is the overthrow of this government. And here Trump is basically overthrowing the old guard that has been feasting at the trough all these years.
Yeah, but you know what he's going to get out of that?
Well, we'll see. I hope
Zilch.
He'll.
Now let's talk to Douglas here. How's Theresa May?
She's like a Sunday school teacher that became prime minister, isn't she? Basically.
Yeah.
You know, she's not. One thing about her is that she is beyond any kind of scandal or anything like that. You know, so she is very. She's the exact opposite in that respect to Trump.
And what about the royals and the wedding and all of this stuff?
No, wait a minute. Let's not get to that yet. That's a different topic altogether.
All right. Yeah. But I'm curious. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, how does the royal family feel about one of their own marrying a half-black woman? That's never happened before. Who's divorced?
And Jewish.
Is she part Jewish too?
Yeah.
Boy.
Well, they're German, aren't they? So I don't think they really care about it.
Hooray for our side. You know. Well, here comes Renee.
Well, you know, we've got this whole Brexit thing going on, as you probably have heard.
Yeah.
And that was a real shock to the mainstream media and liberal establishment who couldn't believe it. So basically, anybody who lives within the M25, which is a ring road that goes around London, they're all couldn't believe that the people had the audacity to vote to leave the European Union. You know, well, they're still in shock.
There is a rumor now. This story was. Hello, Renee. Renee, by the way, Douglas is in Hawaii. Okay, so look at the breadth and width of the. And Phil's in California, and Jeff, who just came in, is up in Connecticut.
Freezing, you know what off.
Yeah. Also, let's see more of your face, Renee.
Okay. And by the way, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning over there, Douglas. What are you doing?
It is. Yeah.
That's
well,
really early.
I pull your camera.
I work some nights, so sometimes I have strange sleeping patterns.
Yeah, well, that's why we probably don't hear from him that often. Okay.
Yeah, the first thing I did was say, "Hey Siri, what time is it in London?" And she's like, 3:30.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Here's the thing, though. What do you think about the feeling? And is there any talk about it that the whole Brexit vote was kind of staged by was fixed by the Russians, by them hacking into your computers?
Complete nonsense. Yeah.
You think that's not?
We laugh at things like that. Yeah.
Well, don't you laugh at the fact that a bunch? Well, how did you feel about Brexit yourself?
Oh, I'm totally for it, completely.
Really?
If you think about it, what it really appeals to is English people themselves, not Scots or Welsh or Irish people. It's English people who are feeling like that their national sense is going. That European Union, which is largely an unelected body, especially the appointed people, the commissioners of the European Union, who basically make all the policy, just absolutely, basically are treating us like a county or something, like not even a state.
Right.
So that's that. So many years ago, David Cameron made a promise that he would put it on a ballot for a vote. And he reneged on this promise, And then, obviously, last year, it was the year before last now, that he decided to actually reinstate his promise. And so he put this put it to the vote and lost. And he had the incredible position of being the British Prime Minister. He was, lobbying for us to remain part of the European Union, and absolutely the lies and the vitriol that came out of that side, the Remain side, were just dreadful. And this massive list that they had, that all these things would happen when Brexit happened, or started. Interest rates would go through the roof, houses would crash.
Yeah.
None of it happened.
Fish were going to jump out of the sea and kill cats. Yeah,
exactly. None of it ever happened.
The right-wing media in this country would have you believe that that they were pulling out also because of all of the people that were coming from Muslim countries into there, using the welfare system, and so forth. Is there any truth? I know. Is there any truth to that?
We have the richest poor people in the world in England.
Or the best taken care of.
Literally, the programs that they have, you wouldn't believe. Yeah. You absolutely wouldn't believe. They don't need. There's 2 million people here that don't work. They get free housing. Some of them get free cars, and it's unbelievable. And they still end up spending all their money on cigarettes, gambling, and and junk food.
Part of that is your fault because you have bookstores everywhere when I walk through there. And you have the gambling facilities and storefronts.
On your phone now.
Is there any phobia about people getting run over on London Bridge and attacks at Parliament and things like that, or are these
they
really?
Don't do phobias.
Are they blown out of proportion?
I'm supposed to do the interviewing on this show.
Okay, well, I was just wondering if they were blown out of proportion.
Well, let me ask you this. Douglas. Politically, where do you fit on the spectrum there? Are you a conservative or are you a liberal?
Yeah.
By our standards.
I'm an English conservative, which makes me probably a Democrat, a conservative Democrat. I would probably be American.
A conservative Democrat, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's a conservative here.
I mean, you have all these programs for people there. Do you approve of them or disapprove of them, or do you just think that,
I approve of them for older people, who, because a lot of the younger people are just con artists now. They just refuse to work,
Yeah. Oh.
And also it does attract. We've had 2 million people come from Poland alone in the last 10 years. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Country outside.
From Poland?
Yeah, but they don't get the benefits right away, right? It's not like I can go into the UK and then the next day you're paying for my housing and all of that stuff.
If you show up with enough children, etc., you'll get everything.
Really?
And you know what? I like some of the programs that they have in the UK. I like that nurses go to postpartum women after their pregnancy and go to their house and do a welfare check on the baby and the woman. I like your way of thinking about the economy, about the air that you breathe, about the whole environment. It's something that is stellar.
What about the health care?
Wait a minute.
Your health care is really good.
Did you ever hear about the London smog years ago?
Yeah.
And you're talking about they know how to take care of that? I mean, it was literally a killer fog, right?
Yeah. Where the term smog comes from, smoke and fog. Yeah. When they used to burn coal.
No, but there's always Jeff. If there's some noise over there, would you like mute yourself? Yeah, because undoubtedly somebody's cooking something good. Anyway, there's a lot of, and Phil would of course start to talk about this, the healthcare system over there.
Yeah, I think years ago I used to be, I wasn't so in favour of it, but as you know, I've been watching your segment about getting older, and I'm getting older, I'm 55, and and I can see now that actually it does make more sense really to have the system that they have here.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some blood pressure medicines. I have 2 of them. I get 3 months of it, and it costs me £35. Which is $50.
Yeah. Do you? The British health system itself was, if I remember correctly, the British people gave it to themselves kind of as a what can we call it, a gift for having gotten through World War II. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, pretty much it. Yeah, and the fact that when the soldiers were returning and everything, they needed to look after them properly. So that's what they did with it, and it is pretty good, really. I mean, actually, if you look at the actual money spent on it per capita, it's much less here than it is in the US.
Yeah.
So
it costs the government less money.
Your military uses the same health care as the public does? You don't have a separate VA or...
Well, actually, that's an interesting question, because only recently have they do have some military hospitals, but they're now building much more proper purpose-built ones, because they've actually had trouble with British soldiers being mugged by, shall we say, friends of the enemies in certain cities in England.
Yeah.
Really?
So they've actually now had to build some of their own hospitals.
Yeah, because our country, we're talking about dismantling the VA system and having more privatization. And when you said that the soldiers were returning, and I said, oh gee, that's a great idea. They're all they have to have the system anyway for the soldiers, so why not include the public?
Exactly.
No, they don't have. See, that's the problem, Phil. They don't have to have a separate system for their soldiers.
That's what I said.
But they want to have a separate system for their soldiers. We have a system for our soldiers, but we don't have a system for anything else. So if we had a system for everybody, then maybe our soldiers.
Well, we also have a system. We also have a system for the congressmen and senators.
Yeah, the people who pay have better
and all they have to do is be a congressman for 2 years, and they get this health care for a lifetime. And it is the best health care you can possibly imagine. I mean, they don't pay a fucking penny, and yet they turn around and go, but really, we want to get rid of Medicare for everybody else. Well, fuck you, fuck you. I'm old. I need to be taken care of. Blow me,
Hey, I do have a question for you. Last time we were in Amsterdam, this became a law in some of the European countries. You are not in Amsterdam. You are not allowed to take a non-hybrid vehicle to the airport area. Meaning, it has to be a diesel, it has to be electric, it has to be sun-driven. You just can't take a gas vehicle from there.
Yeah. What they have is what they call low-emission zones.
Yes, thank you.
So London, for instance, you were talking about smog earlier. The middle of London is a so-called low emission zone. So the vehicles now they're about 100 times cleaner than they were 10 years ago. So. And did you hear that?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Did you hear that Trump just rolled ours back? Our emission standards back.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
I mean.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go on.
They were draconian.
They
weren't draconian. He's living proof that they weren't draconian. The entire city of London is frickin' proof. The entire and most of
years
Germany
ago.
and Amsterdam.
They were burning coal.
And
they had all the buildings were black. All the buildings were black. They're now you can see all the beautiful stone now. They've sandblasted them all. They've sandblasted them all. And I mean, obviously, we're all going to electrical vehicles. I mean, Toyota has said in the year 2025, which is only 7 years from now, all of their vehicles will be electric.
Phil, what part of the term environmental protection sounds bad to you?
The part that you have to wear the condom for.
What?
Ew, gross. Like Trump.
The part that you put
How would you screw a hooker without wearing a condom? What's
she
wrong
is a
with
hooker
you?
now.
Hey, I got news for you, Renee. I have to go after you on that one. Stormy Daniels was probably cleaner than any woman he was seeing. Okay, because they go out and get tested every 3 weeks.
That's true. She was a porn star, but she's also a producer.
I'm sure Melania wasn't screwing around.
The thought of that thing naked.
Yeah, well, I mean, if she gets a lot of money for leaving him someday, she deserves every fucking penny.
Oh, absolutely. She's been dragged through hell.
They were holding hands the other day during the Easter egg thing.
Yeah.
If I was married to him, every time I hold your hand, I want diamond earrings, then I want a diamond ring, and then I want a Chanel bag. And the next time I hold your hands, I want Manolo Blanc. If you want me to do that, you're going to be paying for every time I touch you.
Patrick.
Hillary still kisses Bill. Let's not get over dramatic with Trump and Melania.
Well, no, wait a minute. Even I gotta say that Bill probably is not a bad looking old guy. He doesn't look as out of shape as Trump does.
Now they're on Trump's pant leg size. They say they're comparing it to Kim Jong-un and saying that they're going to the same tailor. You know,
they don't go to the same barber, though, do they?
Yeah. I would imagine. I mean, Bill having to have sex with Hillary. There's a really scary prospect.
That might be worse than Bonk and Bill, but he's still a misogynistic asshole. So,
who's a misogynistic asshole? Trump.
She lived down the street from him.
Clinton is a misogynistic asshole.
Bill Clinton is a misogynistic.
Where do you get that?
Excuse me, have you never seen the parade of women that he has had sex with or touched?
I've interviewed at least one of them, and I asked her, was he a gentleman, and she said very much so. He used to call me the next day and make sure everything was okay, and was very concerned that he didn't do anything to hurt my feelings or whatever. So
what about the one that said he raped her?
There's that one.
Well,
too.
she's a Republican.
Catherine Willie.
And what was Paula Jones?
That was neither of those cases were ever really proven. Okay.
He still does.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sleeping with another woman while your wife is pregnant is pretty scummy. But still sleeping with another woman.
No,
I'll
tell you the worst one is sleeping with another woman while your wife is in the hospital with cancer, like what's his name did.
Yeah.
That's scuzzy. That's really scuzzy.
That's disgusting.
That cost him his career.
Huh?
Oh, well, it
that cost him his career.
Who am I thinking about? What's his name?
He had good hair.
Tip O'Neill?
No.
Nick Gingrich?
Newt Gingrich. I interviewed. I've interviewed a lot of really conservative Republicans, and I have a lot of nice things to say about some of them. Okay, like I really liked Huckabee. I think Huckabee was a swell guy, just terrific, But when it came to Newt Gingrich, he was a fucking
there was a Democratic
asshole.
Candidate for president that his wife had cancer. And she was dying.
That's
Newt. Had an affair.
Was Newt Gingrich who?
No. This is a Democrat.
Because he went into the hospital while she was in there with cancer. She survived it, by the way, but she was in there with cancer, and he announced he was going to divorce her while she was lying in the bed
I
with
understand,
cancer.
But there's another one, and this guy was running for president. You remember Patrick? What
Gore.
You're the white guy, brown hair, good looking.
From North Carolina or something.
It's not Gary Hart. You mean John Edwards?
John Edwards. There we go.
He did the same thing as what Gingrich did, Alex. So let's not
same thing.
Not the other.
Hey, well,
wait a second. His wife was dying of what?
Cancer.
Cancer as well.
Oh yeah, his wife was dying with cancer.
Walked around when she had cancer. So.
And then got the news reporter pregnant.
Yeah.
And she had a baby.
Yeah.
Yes, that killed his career too.
Hold on a second, Douglas. What kind of scandals do you get over there in politics? Because the British are really good at that. I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, at the moment, it's not so much on the kind of sexual things like that. These kind of things.
Yeah.
It's because there's so much going on at the moment. I mean, they at the moment they're having to negotiate Brexit with these three people. Got one guy called Barnier, Donald Tusk, who's an ex-Polish prime minister, and these are the commissioners, and this other guy, this Verhofstadt, who I call the mole rat. Look up Verhofstadt; he's an evil mole rat guy, and every time we try to negotiate with them, they move the goalposts, and they are absolute assholes. And anybody who was a Remainer now is watching how they're treating us. I mean, they're treating us like we're some kind of third world country or something. Had the audacity to want to leave. They still can't believe it.
Right.
So, and Theresa May is the kind of person who she took over from David Cameron, who was a very good speaker and a very good confident kind of leader of a guy, and she seems to be a kind of her particular constituency as an MP is a very, very safe, conservative, wealthy area. She's never even had anybody come close to beating her in any kind of by-election or anything, and now she finds herself absolutely.
Is she conservative or Labour?
She's conservative, yeah.
Okay.
Labour hasn't been in since 2010.
Because she did kind of lead the charge on going after Russia after the poisoning took place.
Yes, she did. Yeah, she's showed a bit of leadership there, and in getting, she actually, I mean, insulting the Russians is a dangerous thing, and her and Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson basically called them Nazis, and then he's the British foreign minister. So
how do the English know that it was the Russians that or Putin that called for this hit on the?
They don't know it's Putin that called for it, but it's pretty much first of all, if you remember, there was a guy. A Ukrainian guy that was hit with an umbrella with plutonium on it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, in the neck or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then most of these guys are oligarchs that they're getting. And in fact, they just killed another one a few days after he was killed. The guy and his daughter were hit, and he was a guy that had stolen £300 million from Aeroflot, and when he was in charge of it, they decided it was time for him to go. Yeah. So they pretty much know.
One of the things they do know, they know that the poison came from Russia.
Well, actually, at the moment, the test is inconclusive on that.
Well, what I heard today was that it wasn't inconclusive that it was Russian. That what they're honing in on is exactly what laboratory in Russia it came from.
Oh, really? Yeah. Because you have to understand that in Salisbury, where this happened, is only 8 miles from Portland Down. Portland Down is where the whole of chemical warfare started, and it's a secret base where in World War One, when the Germans were using mustard gas, then the British decided, are you going to use that? Well, we'll give you some real badass stuff. Yeah. And that's where they developed anthrax and sarin and all the other nasty stuff. Right. So they know a little bit about it.
Are you giving us the first UK or the Gabnet first UK conspiracy theory?
There is no conspiracy. With the Americans, there's definitely Putin.
No. We're pretty sure it's the Russians. I mean, who else would bother doing it? Who would kill this guy anyway?
Yeah.
And then the interesting part is that obviously they wanted everyone to know that they'd killed him.
Yeah.
Because they could have kidnapped him at night time, chucked him in a reservoir, and who would have known?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no, they chose to use one thing that would lead the world to know who it was. So they wanted to do this.
So the response, 300 million.
The response they've got is what they didn't expect. They didn't expect that, number one, the Europeans would actually come out and back us and throw people out. They also didn't expect they might have expected the United States to do it, But so it actually has, I think it must have shocked them that all these countries have expelled Russian diplomats because of it.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
But I think if Theresa May didn't spearhead this, we might not have seen it.
Yeah, yes. So that's probably her first foreign, kind of real big foreign policy success, I would say.
Well, it certainly caused the rest of the world to also take out sanctions against Russia, including the United States, although I don't think Trump spearheaded that. I think that was our State Department who threw out the Russians in Seattle.
I think they must realize that if they hadn't done that, they would have left us stranded and isolated. And this is a very dangerous thing. If you think you're right next door to Russia here, basically, aren't you? I mean, they're only about 700 miles away. And they've got such the weapons, the new nuclear weapons that they are developing now are unbelievable.
You're saying. Wait a minute. We don't think about this, but England is 700 miles away from Russia.
It's 800 miles. It's just the other side of Poland, isn't it? Russia. So
yeah. I didn't stop to think about that.
Hang a right.
Yeah.
Russia just tested something called the Satan rocket. Even the name is scary.
Yeah. It can take out 12 cities. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I don't know.
Of course, we're part of NATO.
Here's what I don't get. Russia builds a bomb that can kill, how many people did we just say? You can take out 12 cities at a time. And yet we're telling North Korea they can't build a nuclear device? I mean, come on. Why
North Korea keeps blowing theirs up, and I don't think the Russians would attack.
Oh, really? Really? Oh, good. Okay. I don't think North Korea would attack either, because I don't think he's that stupid. Trump is, but he's not that stupid. Yes. Yes. Well, Tim's with us, but Patrick has his hand up.
Oh.
I do disagree with you. I think with Russia, it goes back to the Cold War. It's mutual destruction, and there's a respect for that. I think it's always been that way. I think it will be that way. North Korea is a little different animal. They think a little bit differently, especially since great-grandpa or grandpa took over. I don't think they have a respect for mutual destruction, where Russia does, where a number of other countries do as well. So I don't worry about Russia with nukes. I worry about little Rocket Boy with nukes.
Well, here's why I think Rocket Boy wants his nukes, because he wants people to pay attention to him and to do business with him and to talk whatever with him. And by the way, because he's got that nuke, Trump's going, when can we have that meeting? Right? Where if he didn't have that nuke, they might go, it's just North Korea. We'll go visit them sometime soon.
Trump wanted this from the beginning. He's the first president we've had in years that has opened up relations.
You're wrong, Phil. You're wrong, Phil.
Yeah, what? Harry S. Truman?
No. I believe Obama was talking with North Korea, and I believe the Bush administration was talking with North Korea.
Yeah, Bush administration.
Wait a minute. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Renee.
I think they
no,
left.
and I think you can go back. We tried to get North Korea to the table for decades, but one of the things that all of the adults have been trying to do is to get him to meet some milestones. So once they get those milestones met, then we're more than happy to meet with him at that table.
No,
but what Trump did, because he's the great negotiator, he just said, "Fuck it all. There's no steps you have to clear. We're just going to show right up."
They wanted multilateral talks. That's what Bush was talking about, Obama. They wanted the other countries in on this. Meanwhile, Trump just said, okay, I'll talk to you.
Yeah, because Trump's a sucker. Yes. Wait a minute. Patrick has his hand up.
I will say this much. Yes, it has been just about every president, I think, going back to H.W. I don't think Reagan, but at least H.W. had tried to negotiate or talk with North Korea. However, it was Kim Il Sung, and it was Kim, whatever his dad's name
Kim
was.
Jong-il, or mental.
Kim Jong-il.
Yeah.
But the difference is now with this little kid is the other two, Grandpa and Dad, they had the old way of thinking that they wanted to negotiate in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid, he's a loose cannon.
Yeah.
Whereas Grandpa and Dad were a little bit more stable.
Yeah.
You didn't really have to worry about North Korea. And I don't really have a problem with the way Trump has done this, because if little boy Rocket is going to say fuck it, we might as well say fuck it too and play the same game. And I'm okay with that, because now we're at least at the table or getting there.
Okay, wait a minute. Tim wanted to say something. Yes, Tim.
I think there's two reasons that he wants to negotiate. Number one, he finally has a working nuke. Number one.
Yeah.
And number two, the sanctions have been pretty desperate, and it's now not hurting the general population. They've always been hurt. It's hitting his elite, his power elite. It's hurting them too. And I think that sanction pressure and the fact that they actually have, he's ready to negotiate. And he wants to be. They rolled out the red carpet in China for him already.
Douglas has his hand up from London, from Farnham.
I think way I see it from here is that that the Chinese have been told that unless they go and take care of him, then sanctions will be placed. So the first sanctions go on the steel, then other sanctions, and all of a sudden Rocket Boy gets to visit China, and he gets a come to Jesus moment with the Chinese, and they tell him, listen, you're starting to mess up our business now. We're not happy with this. That's what's happening.
Well, there was that big visit a couple of weeks ago.
That's what's happening.
Well, I think Kim Jong-un feels that he's created enough disruption that now he can turn that disruption into talking with people and and suddenly becoming this voice of sanity by saying, I want to meet you.
Incidentally, last year, on a lighter note, there's a hairdresser in London, in the chic part of London, and put up a picture of a bad haircut, and it was Kim Jong-un, right? Picture of him.
Yeah.
And the North Korean Secret Service came around and had a word with the owner.
Let me ask you this question. This is a very important political question I should put out to all of you. Who has the worst hair, Kim Jong-un or Donald Trump?
But that was what I was going to say. Could you please show her that go back to the hair salon and show her the Trump video where he's walking up the stairs of Air Force One, and he looks like, and the hair gets all blown up, and he looks like Darth Vader in the back.
You guys are hair shamers. Hair shamers.
No, you know something? Anybody who does a comb over is an idiot.
And he does a whole head comb over.
And he likes.
Yeah, I mean, he takes one hair and wraps it around his head 1,000 times.
Phil, you just go from left to right or right to left. He actually takes it from behind.
I wonder how long it takes him to do that every day. Yes, Patrick.
You know what? And Renee is right. It's a whole head. I'm not one for hair pieces. I think they look like shit. But I think Donald Trump would look better if he just had to have a hair, to have a rug on his head than what he has. No matter how bad that...
Exactly.
Go to the Halloween store and get a clown,
It was his trademark. It was his trademark.
Well, I'm telling you, so was my hair at one point. But when I lost it,
being a bad hair is your trademark.
When I lost it,
George Costanza manned up and said, "I look better with hair plugs or a wig. I'm going to wear the hair plugs or a wig. You people need to get over this." And he went out and got a semi-decent looking set of hair.
Until Elaine threw the wig out the window.
Well, Steve Martin always had a wig, didn't he? It worked for him.
Well, who did?
Steve Martin.
Yes, he's always.
His was white. That's why people didn't realize because it was white.
A couple of people that have hairpieces, and when I mention they have hairpieces, people go, "What?" And Steve Martin has been wearing a hairpiece for years now. And
Burt Reynolds.
Well, Burt Reynolds.
Frank
Burt Reynolds always looked like he was wearing a hairpiece.
Sinatra
looked like he was wearing a hairpiece. Steve Martin doesn't look like he's wearing a hairpiece. What's his name? I'm trying to remember his name now. Danson. Ted Danson.
Oh, Ted Danson.
Good hairpiece. Great hairpiece. Great hair. He's been bald for years. Yes, Patrick. Yes, Patrick.
I was thinking of you the other night when you had mentioned, I think it was Marjorie that told you stop dyeing your hair.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? Was it Marjorie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because do you know who Judd Napolitano is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's that lady.
He shows up on Fox every once in a while. All right. This guy, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I saw him on one of the shows, and he was salt and pepper. The other night I turned on the show, he was Auburn. I mean, there's no, like...
There was no gradualness to it?
You know how that happens? Lizard people can change the color of their hair quickly.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Stop. Another conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Yes, Trump would look better. Trump would look better if he just decided to go bald. You know?
A hairpiece. An ugly hairpiece, Alan. Honest to God.
Here's the point. Who the fuck does he think he's fooling?
Right.
All right? I mean,
his trademark.
His trademark is to be laughed at about this scuzzy hairdo he's got.
And over the last year, it's been getting shorter and shorter and more normalized.
But it's still being combed over to a fairly well, because if you ever just let wind blow that any which way, it would come down to here and he'd be bald up there.
So what? You know?
So what? This is the phony baloney fuck you like. Come on. By the way,
right.
what is the... yes, well, I got two hands up. Patrick first, and then Renee. And then I want to ask Douglas a question.
Well, Renee, just cover your mouth so you don't vomit when I say something here. I'm just trying to... I wonder, when Melania, even when they had sex, how she would run her finger through her neck, because if you get a handful of that, you'd be pulling like all of it on one side. I mean, you're right. Who's he bullshitting, and how did that work?
He probably wears a hairnet to bed so it doesn't move.
Well, maybe.
You know, at the White House, don't they have a White House barber that takes care of styling the hair?
Yeah, but I'm sure he's not doing Trump's hair. No.
Okay, I want everybody to remember what my hairdresser said. She said, never trust a man that's in denial about his hairline. And Trump is in severe denial about his hairline.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
The best new.
He continues to say it's his.
The best advice I ever got was from Robert Schimmel, who said to me, he said, just because I was wearing my hair long in the back, right? But I was getting bald. I was bald on top, getting bald on top. He said, cut it short. He said, it's called preemptive baldness. You don't look as bald if you make your hair short, okay? And he wore it really short. And I've done it ever since. And I don't really, I've never been bothered by the fact that I lost my hair. You know, I wear a cap on the air because I don't want to scare little children and dogs. I want to make this show accessible to everybody I possibly can. And if I don't get enough viewers, I'm going to have to go to YouTube and shoot the place up. Anyway.
Be careful.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. That was meant as parody. All right. Last night I was so in love with YouTube and how they run their operation that I think it was Tim referred to me as being kissing their ass, right, Tim?
You know, that gal...
Sycophant, yeah. So I'm kidding.
Shot the place up.
Huh?
The gal who shot the place up was. I know she was disgruntled, but
she was Persian.
Which gun range did she visit prior to going to YouTube?
Jackson Arms in San Bruno. Yeah.
I bet they're loving this.
Patrick, you have your hand up. Anyway, I was kidding about that joke, by the way. I feel very bad for all those people who got hurt. Thank God nobody was killed. Okay?
Thank God. Yeah.
But, you know, I think that YouTube learned a great lesson, that a lot of these people who are doing programs on the internet are nutcases, and, you know, they're going to blame you if all of a sudden they start losing audience. They're going to think you're censoring them or whatever. You know,
that friend of mine that has 550,000 YouTube subscribers.
Yeah.
He said that his income had gone down to the point that what he gets from the YouTube is enough to pay for the production of the spots that he puts on there. But he says it's like advertising, so that when he runs his he takes people around the world and goes on photo shoots. So that's how he populates them. But he said they have reduced the income to the point where it's almost like a wash between what it costs him to do and what he gets.
Nobody says he can't sell products on his show.
Well, yeah, he sells tapes and
absolutely can monetize it, you know. But anyway,
well, he does.
Okay,
he does.
Okay, but that's
YouTube. The YouTube money. The YouTube income.
But that isn't the reason why she did what she did. She felt that they were censoring her, they were taking her stuff off. She may have been doing wacky stuff that was in violation of their rules and regulations, and it's their house. But, you know, they've got to be careful about this from here on in, you know. And it's sad because I think that Google was considered one of the best places to work. That particular place, YouTube, was considered a very positive campus. That people loved working there, you know, and to have this kind of thing happen to them is you know.
Now the NRA is going to put metal detectors at schools, at movie theaters, in front of at your job.
The NRA is?
They're going to, because they're the ones who want to keep the guns. So I think they should be responsible for paying for all the security required for them to keep their guns.
Dream again. Yes, Patrick had his hand up a long time ago. Did you have something you want to say, Patrick?
Oh, I forgot what it was then, but I will say now as far as the NRA, I have been a member of the NRA for, I don't know, I gave it up 20-some years ago. Yes. However, I do not believe it's up to the NRA to take care of it. It's up to the individual businesses whether or not they want to be safe. And it's the Second Amendment, and it's people like me and Phil that do believe in the Second Amendment. And I have no problem with somebody owning an AR-15 or a 9mm Glock, whatever.
Wait a minute, hold on a second.
But what about my right to go to a movie theater without getting shot up?
Okay.
Where's my right?
Depends on the movie, but can you ask Doug Doug?
I want to ask Douglas. Yes.
Yeah. What about the
he's British, by the way. So when he puts his name up as Douglas, I think he wants to be called
Douglas. It doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Well, Douglas, when you have very different laws there when it comes to gun control and gun possession, is there what's your take on it from the UK's point of view?
Well, you can own shotguns and rifles and things like that, but handguns are very, very prohibited. So, for instance, if you get caught with them, you're going to do 5 years in prison, minimum term. And if you used it, you'd be in big trouble.
Isn't the philosophy on that, Douglas, that a handgun can be concealed much easier than a rifle or a shotgun?
Yeah, and why would you need one really, other than to, that's the thinking. It's not my particular thinking, but the thinking is that, if you're a farmer or you're doing something in the fields, you need a shotgun, you need a rifle, but they just don't have a tradition of people owning handguns.
And how many people every year get killed by guns and people shooting other people with guns in England?
Well, up until very recently, you probably 10 people, something like that. But recently,
wait a minute. Let me. Yeah, 10 people. Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was very rough.
That's why we still had thousands here in this country.
There's a but.
There is a problem though. There's a new problem that's started happening here, and
stabbings.
It comes also from the end of the Bosnian War and when a lot of arms became available and people started to smuggle them into England. And also now we have, which is mainly black on black crime in London, is stabbings. You know, people resort to knives really quickly, which they never used to before.
How about police? Do they carry guns now?
Damn right they do.
No,
well, at the airport is different.
Well, that's different, but the police still don't carry sidearms, right?
They're crazy. They're going to have to sooner or later. I mean, they carry tasers. You know.
I got a question for Douglas.
Yeah.
According to ITV and the Daily Express, there has been quite a few stabbings. There's more than 34 investigations.
It's 54 verdicts in London due to stabbings this year. Yeah.
But let me ask you this though. Right. You know, to begin with, knives are, yes, you can have knives and people will get stabbed, and we can talk all about that. But the lethality of a knife and the proximity in which you have to use that knife is much different than a gun. You can shoot a gun from across the street and kill somebody, but you have to be right next to them in order to stab them.
Actually, a lot of the terrorists complain that they can't get hold of guns in England. That's why they started to use cars and things like that to run people over. So, because they've actually complained because they couldn't get a gun.
I'm so sad for them.
And the police don't mind not having guns, right?
The problem now.
Wait a minute, Tim. Let Douglas answer my question. Yes.
What you had is up until say 20 years ago a very Anglo-centric population.
Yeah.
And people not really into guns and this and that. You now, 20 years later, you've imported 5 or 6 million people, and lots of them come from countries that have guns. They like to use guns. They like to use knives much more, and they are. So the poor police now have got to deal with people who are not of the same mindset necessarily, and they're not allowed to really. They have to be very, careful. They don't upset them because of their different cultures and things like that. So they're not allowed to do stops and searches, which they used to be allowed to do.
Are DCIs allowed to carry guns there?
Detectives and people, detectives and people like that.
Yeah. Are the police there being attacked the way the police are being attacked in the United States?
Attacked for what, Phil?
Being attacked by the citizenry the way they are being attacked by the United States. Like a Black Lives Matter.
Can I ask him also the other question? Yeah, are the police attacking black people? You know,
I think there's the discrimination in England that we have here.
Well, it's different. If I'm right or wrong about this, correct me, Douglas. Blacks have had a much easier time of it than the Indians.
They are being really goaded. They're being really goaded by these people. And they're having to use a hell of a lot of self-control to not. And the fact that they don't have a gun to shoot somebody probably, is a good thing in that respect. But it's not. They're opening themselves up for being attacked.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Anybody? Jeff, you've been very quiet tonight.
He's been muted.
Yeah.
Why have what?
Do you believe that the police are being attacked by Americans?
Hold on a second. I'm talking to Jeff here, because Jeff hasn't said a word tonight, and I'd like to. Do you have any thoughts about any of this, Jeff?
Well, I wonder if does Phil actually when he goes to the movies, do you take a pistol with you?
No, not really. But
occasionally.
Occasionally. I live in a very, very safe kind of nonviolent area.
No, honey, white is the word. It's
white.
White.
Yes, Jeff. Just
I know somebody who carries a pistol all the time, and she's a gun. She's a cop.
Yeah.
And she shot herself the other day.
Really?
Yeah, and totally by accident. I mean, she didn't shoot it off herself. It actually automatically just went off.
Just spontaneous.
Doesn't happen.
Spontaneously.
See,
by
what did Phil just say? Phil said what?
It
never
doesn't
happens.
And
well, wait a minute. Phil, you say it never happens, but apparently it did.
Well,
not only that, it happened.
I like it when people say, what are the chances of that
Yeah.
happening? Apparently the chances are 100% because it happened.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some other extenuating circumstance that caused it. Guns don't go off unless you pull the trigger.
Theoretically, that's a good design plan, but sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes she got shot in the leg.
What were the circumstances, Jeff, of this accidental discharge?
She was sitting there in the office talking to another guy, and it just
hear his wife
malfunctioned. Oh yeah, I got my attorney on the side.
Good for her. But here's the deal: how long was she a police officer, and how many hours of training did she
long
have?
time. She's like a third level, whatever that means.
Big monkey.
Right. So
Yeah.
she's fairly well trained in a firearm, right?
Absolutely.
You know something, Douglas. What's interesting is that when you get together with your friends, I don't think you talk.
They never have this
How old are you now?
55.
55. Do your friends get together and say, "Hey, what are you doing about health insurance?"
No.
Or being worried about being able to, if you get sick, to pay for something or whatever. No. And the same thing is probably true as you don't get together and say, so what do you think about just this whole thing with guns right now?
Don't forget the schools.
There are several things in England at least that you can eliminate from the topic of discussion at the dinner table. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, those are two big things. There's plenty of other things, of course.
Education,
which are not so good here. Obviously, we can talk about those in the following times.
Yeah, but
the restaurant food.
So
now I like to. We're not living in a cave with rotary dial telephones and stuff like that. We've got some of the best food in the world here now. In fact, the top French food.
I'm glad that changed because
if London was a French city, it would be the 6th largest French city in the world.
Oh, good, because I'm glad the food has gotten better because it used to be hideous. It used to be just hideous.
Is Wimpy's still in business?
Wimpy's, yeah. The reason why it was so bad is because of rationing from World War II.
Okay.
And economy, unfortunately, when you go through World War II, you've got no money, there's no fruit, there's no bananas, there's no, and that that carried on probably till the late 50s, really, before that really started to change and into the 60s. But now you can get it, you name it, you can get it, and it's being cooked by. We got Italian foods from Italians,
Jeff's got his hand up. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, I agree with you on the food changes. But Douglas, I have a different question for you, and that is, what's going on with students who are, high school, and then going on to more degrees and college and master's degrees and things like that? How's that working for England?
Well, we've had an issue here the last 20 years where more people go to college now than have ever before, and that's brought two problems. Brought another problem. The other problem that has brought is that they've sent people to university. They shouldn't be at university. They should be, they're not necessarily cut out for it, and they end up doing a degree that's completely useless. So what happens then is we have a massive shortage of electricians, plumbers, builders, mechanics, and people like this. So, and then that's what's led to all these 2 million Poles coming here, and a million Romanians, all these people coming here, because we now have got a situation. We've got too many people with degrees, and some of them are not marketable degrees. Only so many people can work for the government.
You talk about all these Poles coming there. Why are they? Why are Poles coming to England? I mean, Poland is not.
Well, because of the number one, they can because of the European Union.
Yeah.
And what's happened is that the breakup of the former Soviet Union, when you have Lech Walesa coming into power, 1990.
Yeah.
They've taken a very long time coming out of communism, and in Poland, there's still a lot of corruption and government-led stuff. And like, if you get a job from somebody, you got to pay them, and the boss and all that kind of stuff. So usually, if you're in one of the main cities, you're probably okay. But if you're in a rural area or something like that, you can come here, and your income's 5 times.
And England doesn't have quotas on immigrants coming into the country, or do they?
Well, one of the reasons is the European Union sets these kinds of things.
Okay.
And ironically, Poland does not allow immigrants into Poland.
Is that one reason?
But I thought London was no longer part of that.
Well,
No, they're negotiating.
They're negotiating it. They're not out of the EU yet.
It becomes law, but still they've got they're negotiating all of these things.
Wasn't there like 2 years or something for Brexit to take place? Something like
it's
that.
a year from a few days ago is when it will be. So it will be April 2019.
Yeah.
Too bad Trump's not in charge. He would have it done by midnight on Friday.
Yeah.
It'd be over.
Well, I think our negotiating team has been a bit too pussified. I think we hold many more cards. I mean, the stuff we buy from Germany is unbelievable.
Well,
all our police cars are all BMWs, and our ambulances are made by Mercedes. We just buy tons and tons of stuff from the Germans, and they're now getting upset and worried because these Barnier, Werkstatt, and these other gang of thugs are now kind of up. If they do upset us, and we go without a deal.
Is
very bad German business.
Is England going to be affected by the tariffs that Trump set?
Trump's tariffs.
I don't think so. I don't think we have a really massive steel industry. We do make some steel, but we're not big makers of steel.
Yeah, but that's not the only thing that he's putting tariffs on. I mean,
no. Well, I mean, most of that's aimed at.
I mean, he put any tariffs on British goods? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, the Germans and basically what they have done is the reason why we didn't join the euro is because the euro is a de facto German mark, really. So it's held down by Spain, Portugal, Greece, all of those countries hold down the value of the euro.
You know why? I think
they make it artificially cheap.
Yes.
So that benefits the Germans exporting stuff to Britain and to United States. Mm-hmm. So the Germans really benefit from them being poor and the Germans being wealthy.
Well, I understood that, if you can control your currency, and you couldn't with the euro, you could value it differently depending on what you needed to do. So, for instance, in Greece, they couldn't devalue the euro, and so they couldn't afford to pay.
Yeah. The European Central Bank sets the interest rate,
right,
based on what the Germans and the French want, not what Greece wants.
Right.
I think what the idea of the European economy, the euro and the European Union was so they could become like the number one gross. Well, you just think of it as one country, and then they would become one of the major product producers in the world. But that didn't work out. Then we came out with this idea called NAFTA.
The reason why it didn't work out is because Spain, Portugal, and Greece they base their economies mainly on tourism. They also are, they do make a lot of things and they do other things, But Germany is a manufacturing, exporting country, and so is France.
But it was singularly a gross amount of income and population and so on. So what we did to kind of get even is we started NAFTA. Pretty much kind of the what?
How did that work out?
Well, I never thought it was a good idea in the first place. Okay,
but these big trade agreements are terrible because you can't negotiate an individual thing for each country. So look at Spain. Spain's a beautiful, lovely country.
Yes, it is.
50% of its people under 25 are out of work. They're all coming here too. They're all working in our bars and pubs and everything. Why would you leave Spain to come and work in England? I mean, it's crazy.
Wow.
How much did HSBC pay for the LIBOR? They were manipulating the exchange rate, weren't they? The LIBOR, the LIBOR.
I'm not sure. I'm not really a financial person.
They're just settling a lawsuit for manipulating it. I think it's around $100 million. Yeah.
Well, the City of London is tremendously good at financial services, and the Europeans now think they're going to steal all the financial services. But that's great saying that, but you still have to be able to good at doing them.
So how's everybody getting ready for the big royal wedding? Is everybody like Meghan Markle? Is she acceptable to everybody?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think she's been doing a really swell job of acting royal, and I mean
she's a good actress. Yeah.
She's a good actress, and I think it is a step forward, because the wonderful thing is, if I could be anybody, I wouldn't want to be the guy who's going to be the king. I'd want to be the brother, okay? Because he can get away with anything. He can marry a half-black woman who's half Jewish, and was married once before and was on a television, essentially soap opera, and that's fine. Have a good time. Yeah. That's wonderful.
No,
it's a lovely.
But Will's not far from Windsor Castle here too, so it's not that far away. Windsor Castle.
Will's has to have an heir and a spare, and they got to be lily white, and it's a lot easier job. Hey. It's been good having you here. I don't know what you're doing calling us this early in the morning. Are you up? Are you usually up late? Is that what it's about?
Yeah, and I do work some shifts, so sometimes I'm up. And,
well, I certainly hope you'll call us again.
Yeah.
We love you've been very good here tonight, and we'd love to have you back on. So please call us again. Yes, Patrick, quickly. What's on your mind?
Going to be a Patrick-free Friday, so.
Oh, okay.
You have to worry about the conservative.
I'm getting confused. There's a Patrick-free Friday and a Phil-free Friday, and
I'm a conservative too. I'm a conservative. So.
You're not the same kind of conservative. But if you're fiscally conservative, you're probably the same kind of conservative.
Yeah,
but we really enjoyed your input tonight, and we hope you'll call us. Hope you find yourself up late enough to call us again.
Early enough.
Or early enough, or whatever your shift is. I have no idea.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning in Friday.
Yeah, he made it to AM.
Yeah. And I, of course, want to thank you for being here, Douglas. Appreciate it all. You're terrific. Jeff, thank you for being here this evening, as well as Patrick. And Phil, as usual, thank you. To Renee in Hawaii. Thank you so much for calling tonight. And Tim, thank you for once again being a square with a telephone picture in it. Yeah.
Don't I look like myself?
It looks just like you, yeah.
Hey, looks like a rotary telephone.
I got an idea. Everybody.
You know why Trump has small hands?
Why?
He's not only fiscally conservative, he's physically conservative as well.
All right. Anyway, the point is that every one of you, except for the phone picture, should wave goodbye and say goodbye to all our fine people out there, and goodbye from all over the world tonight on our Citizens Panel. Hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow night. Bye-bye. That's our Citizen Panel. Oops. There we go. Okay. I'm getting so bad at this that I really got to get some kid who can start running the board for me. Anyway, let me say goodbye to everybody offline. Get rid of them. Are they gone? Yeah, they're gone. That's so the next show can have the have the facilities, as it were. We'll be back again tomorrow night, starting out at 9:30 with Damien in the Exchange, and then that's followed by me. Next is The Intersection with Jack and Amy, followed at 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern Daylight Time by Connections. I'll see you tomorrow night, same time, same station in life. In the meantime, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Bye.